A new president is elected in Togo.
Devant Dieu et devant le peuple togolais, seul détenteur de la souveraineté nationale, nous, Jean-Lucien Savi de Tové, président de la République togolaise, élu conformément aux lois de la République, jurons solennellement fidélité à la Constitution de la République et nous engageons à consacrer nos efforts au bien-être du peuple togolais et de travailler à la consolidation de l'unité nationale.
On 3rd May 2025, a new president was chosen by the members of the Parliament of Togo to succeed Faure Gnassingbé, who transitioned to a newly created and powerful position known as the President of the Council of Ministers. Now, before we dive into the southern twist of Togo political system, let's look at some of the history of Gnassingbé rules in Togo.
Faure Gnassingbé has been the president of Togo since 2005. He came to power after the death of his father Gnassingbé Eyadema, who had ruled the West African nation for nearly 38 years, starting April 1967. The elder Gnassingbé, who was a military officer, seized power in a coup. His son Faure was supported by the army to the presidential seat in February 2005, but resigned shortly thereafter and vied in the subsequent April 2005 elections. His candidature was sponsored by the ruling party. Faure Gnassingbé, who had served as a cabinet minister for 2 years, that is from 2003, won the April 2005 elections. In 2020, he won a 4th term in office with over 70% of the votes. The opposition alleged that President Gnassingbé had rigged the poll. The head of state was born on June 6, 1966, in Togo's southeastern town of Afanya. His father, who died at the age of 69 in February 2005, had ruled for nearly 4 decades and Faure thereafter took over. Today, Gnassingbé has been in power for 19 years. The father and son have therefore been at the helm of Togo's leadership for a total of 57 years. Faure Gnassingbé holds a master's degree in business administration from a United States university and also a bachelor's degree in economics from a French university. After completing university education, Gnassingbé returned to Togo to manage his father's businesses. In 2002, he was elected a deputy in the Togolese National Assembly after winning a parliamentary seat. And in July the following year, his father appointed him the Minister for Mines and Public Works. Speculation is rife in Togo that Gnassingbé is seeking to extend his rule much longer. In 2019, Togo amended its constitution and limited a president's term to a maximum of 2 5-year terms. And because the law does not look backwards, Gnassingbé was allowed to seek fresh mandates in the subsequent elections. He ran in 2020 and won, though controversially. Under the 2019 constitution, he can vie again in 2025, but that would mean that he has to leave office by 2030 if he wins. In late March this year, the Togolese parliament passed a controversial constitutional reform that changes how a president is elected. Unlike now, only members of parliament will elect the president, who will cede most of his powers to the prime minister, also chosen by parliament. The president will serve a 6-year term. Following intense backlash, President Gnassingbé returned the law to parliament for further review.
Now, Gnassingbé Eyadema came into power in 1967, and as of now, the political system of Togo is something that we can describe as a stable system of governance. As a matter of fact, Togo is officially classified as multi-party democracy. However, the political landscape has been characterized by significant challenges to democratic governance. The country has a long history of authoritarian rule, particularly under the leadership of Gnassingbé Eyadema, who ruled from 1967 until his death in 2005, and his son Faure Gnassingbé, who took power afterwards. Elections in Togo have often been marred by allegations of fraud, repression of opposition, and restrictions on political freedoms. While there have been some reforms and efforts to improve the electoral process, concerns about human rights violations, media censorship, and the treatment of political opponents remains prevalent. In summary, while Togo is structured as a democracy, The practical application of democratic principle is frequently undermined by authoritarian practice, leading to the hybrid system where democratic process coexists with significant authoritarian tendency. Now, that is some of the little that we can uncover about Togo as of now. Togo has been characterized as authoritarian rule from so many decades and so many centuries. And when Gnassingbé Yadema was in power, and even afterwards when his son took over the rule of Togo, it's still the same. Now they have turned the constitution, they have structured the constitution that things have to change. And what we are going to look at right now is what is currently happening in Togo. The president that was chosen for the Togolese is just a ceremonial president, whereas the real power lies in Faure Gnassingbé as the giant ruler of the Togolese Republic. Let's dive into the man that was elected as the ceremonial president in Togo. So many Togolese think he is now the president, and some have realized that this is a fooling thing that they are doing to confuse them of who is actually the president. Now, the presidency still remains in the hands of the Gnassingbé family. This 86 years old man was elected as the president of the Togo Republic. Jean-Lucien Savi de Tové was elected by the Togolese National Assembly following significant constitutional reforms enacted in 2024. These reforms shifted Togo from a presidential system to a parliamentarian republic, reducing the presidency to a largely ceremonial role. The National Assembly, now dominated by the ruling Union for Republic (UNIR) party, unanimously elected Savi de Tové as the new president. At nearly 86 years old, he became the oldest person to hold office in Togo's history. The constitutional changes were approved by the National Assembly in March 2024 and signed into the law by President Faure Gnassingbé on May 6, 2024. These reforms included eliminating direct presidential election, replacing them with parliamentarian selections, establishing a parliamentarian system of government with a new position of President of the Council of Ministers, which holds significant executive powers, reducing presidential terms to 6 years with a single term limit, which does not retroactively apply to Faure Gnassingbé previous terms, potentially allowing him to remain in power until 2031 if re-elected. Critics, including opposition parties and civil society groups, have denounced these changes as a constitutional coup, arguing that they entrench the Gnassingbé's family control over Togo's leadership. The opposition contends that the reforms undermines democratic principle and concentrate power within the ruling party. For Gnassingbé's new rule, following the constitutional amendment, Faure Gnassingbé was sworn in as the President of the Council of Ministers on May 3, 2025. This position grants him substantial authority over government coordination and policy implementation, effectively allowing him to retain significant control over the country's affairs, despite the ceremonial nature of the presidency. In summary, Faure Jean-Lucien Savi de Tové holds the ceremonial title of president. Faure Gnassingbé continues to wield considerable power through his new role, maintaining the family's long-standing influence over Togo's political landscape. Now, as a matter of fact, we can now see that the changes in the constitution of Togo is still favoring the family of Faure Gnassingbé, whereas a lot of Togolese has reacted to the issues. Which kind of president is that? They should not be lying to us. If they are tired, they should run to another country. What is that? Which kind of old man is that? Are they saying the mission Tové's roads are not good? What are they doing to the country? The change of constitutional rule have turned to an attack on them.
Qui est le nouveau président du Togo? Tic-tac, tic-tac, tic-tac. Une question à tous les amis. Les Vigbogboro la goup point, qui est la tête guéon femme. Bref, en ce jour du 3 mai 2025, le Togo vient de connaître un nouveau président à la tête du 5e République. Son Excellence Jean-Lucien Savi de Tové, qui est actuellement le nouveau président du Togo. Qu'en est-il de l'ancien président? Ouais, l'ancien président du Togo, Faure Gnassingbé, devient le président du Conseil des ministres. Maintenant, qui prendra la décision entre les deux? Voici la question qui se pose dans la tête de plusieurs Togolais.
In a summary, what is actually happening to the Togolese right now, or in the land of Togo right now, is something that is just an old tricks used by the Gnassingbé family to retain power in Togo right now. So the Togolese, you have a big problem in your country right now as I'm talking to you. The reforms of the constitution still gives power to those who have been in power for barely 20 years. And the father was in power for 38 years. Togolese, what do you think about this actual amendment of the constitution? Whatever it is, drop it in the comment section. Thank you for watching this channel.